So who are all these Johns? We call this the Johannine corpus. Those who which could those books of the Bible which could have been written by somebody named John. And there's all these Johns, especially in the New Testament. There's John the Baptist, who we don't believe wrote anything in the Bible. There's John the disciple. There's First John. There's Second John. There's Third John. There's John of Patmos, who wrote Revelation. Um, there's questions of are some of these the same person who wrote these? Are they different? Without getting too deep into the details here, just sort of before we get into first, second, third John, to kind of separate these a little bit. My take, this is just me, is that John's gospel was not written by John the disciple, but that rather it was written by someone in John the disciple's orbit, sort of a follower of a descendant in spirit of John the disciple, somebody who, when John the disciple went out after Jesus was around, sort of came up under John. So, and then I believe that first, second, and third John were written by someone similar, if not the same person there, somebody in John's orbit. And then John of Patmos, who wrote Revelation, is probably just a different guy. So just to kind of get our heads straight around that, does it matter? Maybe, maybe not for our purposes. Well, First John is called a letter, but it reads a little bit like letter meets sermonette meets Christian tract. It's addressing a group of Christians who's experienced division. There's apparently been a group who's left the congregation, but the author says, actually, those of you who stayed around, you were in the right here. Those left believed in a different kind of love. We don't really know what that means, other than First John says they believed in a different kind of love. The people who left weren't so big on this idea that Christ came in the flesh, and they even thought, well, hey, we're free from sin. And it's been suggested that potentially these people who had left were an early group of what we call Gnostics. So the Gnostics were people who we know more about them in a couple of centuries later, but perhaps these were early Gnostics. The Gnostics were people who believed that God had given them a very special vision, and only them and only they knew. And they were waiting for the signs of the end times, but only they would know. It was kind of um, this idea that they were the chosen ones and everybody else wasn't. And they sort of went into hiding and they were kind of waiting for the world to end, because there was nothing good in the world and they had to get away from it. And we've seen movements like that pop up throughout history, but Gnostics or Gnosticism is the practice of being a Gnostic. The Gnostics were a large group in the first couple of centuries. Um, First John could have been written to a group who had some Gnosticism in them, and those Gnostics left. Anyway, major themes: Christ's fleshly incarnation. He came, and he was fully human and fully God. He wasn't just sort of this spirit. Um, God's love and love among the Christian community, the nature of Christian mortality, Christ's relationship with sin, and the imminence of the last days. So that's First John. We got a couple more, second and third John, coming up soon.